Do you know how much your portfolio is worth?
Yeah, I think it should be a lot more, but it's only about $6 million. I know, but I'm married to a lawyer. I'm married to a lawyer, and we should have more.
I already have you. Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk About Real Estate with Alexis Mata. Today I have a very special guest. I actually have the studio that I go to, their mother, Anne, here with me. And she has a very, very special story that I think is really going to make a huge impact on anybody who watches this. So let's start off with you. So you were a school teacher, correct?
Yes.
That's how you started?
Yes.
And you went from a school teacher to then a principal
right.
of the school. What was that school?
Here in Las Vegas. Hinman. Just
okay.
down Sunset and Boulder Highway.
And how was that for you as a W-2 worker, starting off as a teacher? Was that your passion? What did you teach?
Yeah, I taught kindergarten and first grade mainly. I taught in South Phoenix, too, before. That was my passion. Yeah.
It was? Yeah. How did you get from being a teacher to a principal? What did that look like to you? What were those steps?
Well, I never considered it, actually, and I went and got my master's and then my doctorate. My master's was in administration to have options. I wanted to have options to make more money if I needed to. And then when I got my doctorate, they talked me into getting into administration. And by the end of the doctorate, I was going to go into administration, and so then I did. Yeah.
How did you take your W-2 and start leveraging it into real estate? Because that's what you did, right? You started using the money that you were receiving from that, and did it start with your first primary?
My first primary job.
Home.
No, I had I was lucky. My mom was a broker, and my dad was a licensed contractor, and so they would build spec homes and sell. And so I learned a lot. I got my real estate license in Arizona when I was 18, and they let me use their money. And my first purchase back then, you probably haven't even heard of this, cash to mortgage. You could just buy someone's mortgage, and so they gave me the money to put down on the mortgage for someone else's house. And then I flipped it and sold it within a week and made about $5,000, and they let me keep that $5,000, which paid for some of my college. So that was my first experience, and then watching my parents. Our first home was actually in Arizona. That one we purchased, but we weren't investing at that point. We just both had gotten off of Mormon missions. We both got married. We're childhood sweethearts. We're starting to have kids. He had no college when we got married, so 4 years there. Then we went to BYU Law School. By then, I'm staying home with the kids because it wasn't worth it financially to
continue
for babysitting costs,
Right.
Then we came here after he graduated. We moved to Vegas, and he went to work. I stayed home, still with the kids because we were going to have 12 kids. That was our plan. I was going to be a soccer mom.
Oh, my goodness.
And then I found out how hard it was because he wasn't home helping me like he had been. It's like, I'm going to work. So then I went to work as a kindergarten teacher and then in the Clark County School District. And it wasn't until, so we first get in that home, of course, we have student loans and, we're poor, and so we're paying off the student loans. But one of the things we did, and I think this is what the common person can do, is, first, I've often tell my grandkids, if you can't save, if someone gives you $1, you can't save any money from that dollar. You'll never be able to save if someone gives you $1 million. It just won't happen. You've got to learn to save. So, we do all the things you should. We put some money for emergencies. Then I start paying the mortgage 6 months ahead eventually. And then I start putting money towards the mortgage on the home that we're in. Mm-hmm. And we're in there 5 years. And it was at that point where we're going to go now buy our home that we're going to raise the kids in, and of course by then we had money and loans were paid off and stuff, and we had saved up money for our down, so we just kept home, the
first home.
Yeah, well, our second home really, but not the one in Arizona, but this one, first one in Vegas, and we kept that home and rented it out. And I found that in typical markets that from when you first buy a home, it takes about 5 years for the market rent could cover your whole mortgage. Like so, if you move out, it'll cover your mortgage. Because back then we're still poor. You know, every cent counted. So we get it rented, and we're covering the mortgage, and even then some. Move into our new house, we started doing the same thing. Paid it off in about 7 years. Saved up money, and any opportunity we had, we would buy properties and kind of do the same thing. That's what we did.
How long did it take you to start building your portfolio? What did that look like from the first one that you had purchased in Vegas and then leveraging that?
Well, the first one, we were about 35 when we moved into our house that we're in now. And so we owned one rental home at that point. So it took a long time. But once it started, then things just started rolling. So between then and now, we have about 30,000 square feet of rental properties, all paid off. And we try and buy properties whenever we can.
And you're still actively.
Yeah, because there's no better place for me to put my money. And I want that stream of income coming in, the rental income. You know, even though we're old, I still want it to increase my monthly stream of income, you know.
Because it's allowed you to be able to walk away. I'm assuming you're no longer a principal, correct?
Right, retired.
You're retired, and is your husband retired as well?
No.
Does he still choose to? But that's his own choice. Honestly, if he wanted to, he could probably step away from that job.
Financially.
Financially,
Right.
But he wants to keep busy, and that's a completely different thing.
But he did not come from the mindset of investing.
That was you.
He's the opposite. He would not ever want to take that risk. And so it was always a big push, and luckily he's conceded, and you know,
he pushed through.
And he liked it, and he's happy now that we did.
How many doors do you have currently in Vegas?
I don't count them as doors because some are commercial properties that are offices. But I have about 30,000. In Vegas, I got about 10,000 square feet of commercial, and then only one house, and then our house in Vegas. And then the other properties are Utah and Idaho.
Oh, so you do out of state as well?
Yeah.
How did you divvy into Idaho? What made you feel comfortable? And I'm assuming you've never been or never lived in Idaho, right?
No.
So that's a completely out of market area.
Yeah, wherever our kids went to college, we tended to buy.
Really?
Yeah,
that's so
I felt
smart.
like I wanted a piece of it, you know, and then they could live there. My daughter lived in one of our apartments. We had some fourplexes, and she and her husband, when they got married, lived there. And my son in Provo, he would manage the duplex that we have there, and you just feel like you have a piece of it. And the markets there, Utah and Idaho, are always doing very well because of the population that moves there constantly. So good markets.
Is that something you watch too when you're looking at the market and when is a good time to buy? How do you know?
You know what? I have a daughter that I shouldn't say this because if she hears it. She and her husband are always trying to time the market because they too have bought. They have
there's no timing the market.
Homes. They have 2 investment homes that they bought and then just didn't sell and would move on. And that's my suggestion. The easiest way to do it is move into your first home. You know, wait about 5 years, save up money to get it down on another home, and then just keep doing it, especially when your kids are little and you don't need to be, you know, kind of settled. And it's just easy because you're only putting, 5% down is required?
Unconventional. Sometimes you can go a little lower, but it depends.
FHA or whatever. Depends, you know, when you're moving into your own compared to buying, you know, putting 20% or 25% down as an investment. So that makes it easier on you financially if you do that. But so I have this daughter. She always wants to time the market. Oh, it's not a good time now, and this and that. And then the market keeps going and gets better. Oh, we should have bought. You know, and
it's a vicious cycle.
To me, the best time to buy is when you can. If you can pull it off, you do it, and you make sure you pull it off. You know, you work for that.
That is probably one of the best advices that I think anybody could ever give is if you can afford to buy right now, buy.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel like right now. At the beginning of the year, right now, in January of 2025, I honestly think the best time to buy is right now.
Yeah.
Even with interest rates sitting at 7%, and this isn't for people that can't afford to get into something at 7%. If you can't, then don't. But now you have a goal to work towards.
Right.
Whether that's finding more income, getting a side hustle, changing your careers, but you have a goal towards to work to.
Right.
Because the market is ever changing and it is ever growing.
Right.
There's never going to be, I mean, there's always sweet spots in the market where somebody.
And there's moments when, dang, you should have invested, but you
or
just
you
can't.
could have waited for that little moment where something would have changed. But still, to your point, when you can afford to buy that's the time to buy.
Yeah.
Even if you're buying it at, let's say, what you would quote unquote think is not a good deal. It's going to be a good deal when you look back at it 5 years from now. That's going to be a great deal.
Someone else is paying off your house, basically.
And your first home, it wasn't your dream home, I'm assuming, right?
No.
Because that's a big conception too. A lot of people will want to rent because sometimes you can get more of a house with renting than what you can with a mortgage, right?
What you're looking for. Right.
You can get a 4-bedroom, 3-bath for roughly around $2,500, and that same home would probably run you about $32 in mortgage, including HOA, taxes, and all that good stuff, depending on credit and what that looks like for that person. So there's a substantial amount of money per month that would make somebody steer into a way of renting.
Right.
But I think that those extra couple $100 that you spend a month in your payment is well worth it than paying somebody else's mortgage down.
And typically, I think properties keep up with inflation. And so if I'm making, let's say, $30,000 a month now, then in 10 years, I will probably be making the equivalent of what $30,000 a month is now then. The rents will keep up with, assuming inflation, continues. So it's almost inflation proof. Now, you never know. Something could happen.
Yeah, we never know. I mean, 2008 happened.
Everything happens. Yeah.
That was a real situation that, really shook up the housing market. And I think certain individuals are waiting for that moment to happen again.
Right.
If that were to happen again, I think that we would have bigger issues than housing affordability. I mean, because we're so much further advanced than what we were back then. There was a lot of shady things that were going on in the industry, especially on the lending side of things. And I feel like that's a lot more heavily regulated. And I just don't see a mass correction happening everywhere, like as what it happened in 2008. And Vegas was one of the hardest ones that got hit.
Right.
And now look at us.
Right.
I mean, we went from being one of the most we're still, granted, affordable, but I mean, not our housing, not compared to like Midwest states. I mean, for the same home in a Midwest, you're looking at 200 opposed to 440 of a median price here. Right. But Ohio they're starting to see a tick up in prices too, just because of that. Everybody's going there. Everybody's going to migrate there. It's a great place to invest right now. What would your advice be for somebody that wants to out-of-state invest? If they can't afford to invest in Vegas,
they find a cheaper place.
And they find a cheaper place.
Well, my son has done. Oh, we bought 2 in Illinois too. We bought 2 houses.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I forgot about that. We bought in Illinois because it was really cheap, and we had some money, and the guy was going to sell it for a deal if you bought 3 houses. And so that's one of our kids. I said, hey, you want to go in, buy 1 house? And we'll buy, 2 and get it for this deal or whatever. And so we've always just taken opportunities. Sometimes they come to us, the opportunities. And so now we're at the point where we typically now we'll just pay cash because we don't want mortgages. So
you like a burr strategy.
Yeah. So now it's just like, okay. Or we might do a little financing, but the financing process I just hate, so I just rather. So, but we're at that point. But
no, it's better to buy cash.
The biggest counsel I would give is learn how to save, because if you can't save from a dollar when you get the big money, or there was this family in our neighborhood in the cul-de-sac behind us. They were in an accident and got some big money, and so they bought this way back then when the houses were kind of nice and nice part of town, not quite so much anymore. But So they got this deal through a car accident. They move in, and they were smart enough to at least put it down on this house. But they were the type, they lost the house within 6 or 7 months because they couldn't keep the payments up because they probably spent all their money. So even though here they had that opportunity
To buy a house
they
outright.
didn't know how to save. So I think the most important thing is learn how to save and don't live like the Joneses.
Live within your means.
Yeah, we lived like crap and put our money towards saving, paying off the houses, investing, and now we can live better than the Joneses. So there you go. I think time, helps it all too.
So you brought up a really good point on saving, right? I think a lot of people don't because they want to impress, their their fellow colleagues, their family, their friends.
And we all do. I mean, I understand. And when you get a chunk of money, a bonus or something, put it towards an investment somehow, or most of it. Always be.
Is that how
moving
you
in
paid
that
off your
direction.
mortgages?
Yeah, and pay $50 in the beginning, $50 extra a month, and then like we could pay more, and then if we got a bonus, just just everything. Usually, all of our money, the priority was some sort of investment at some point.
So you've never taken 30 years to pay off a mortgage, I'm assuming.
Never. Never.
That's not from the vibes that I've gotten from you. You've never waited. Believe it or not, that there's people that are still in mortgages that should have only lasted for 30 years.
Right, but still.
And they're going on their 40th.
Yes.
And sometimes refinancing makes sense, right? It does. It really does make sense.
It depends on your situation, but
it doesn't always make sense. And sometimes I think even loan officers can be the reason for it or bad influences. But sometimes somebody will get to that before they hit their 15-year mark where they can actually refinance into a 50-year mortgage. They'll
a 50
or 15.
I was gonna say, what?
15-year mortgage. They'll do it right before that cusp and then go all the way back down to a 30-year, get refinanced back into a 30-year where they just to save a couple $100.
The problem with always if you refinance, my one daughter will use, what do they call them? It's basically a refinancing to buy an investment property. I think that's a good time. That's one good reason to do. But refinancing just to refinance, it just puts you into
a hole.
Yeah, it puts you
just
into
to
a
save
hole,
a couple
and you can
dollars
never
now.
be on top. Yeah, you can never get up. You can never get out. Yeah.
What was the fastest mortgage that you've ever paid off?
Well, paying cash for a home first would be the fastest. There was no mortgage. Our house that we're in now, I think it was about 7 years.
You paid off a house in 7 years.
Yeah. We were 35 when we bought it. Yeah.
How?
Just put as much money towards it every month as we could, and then if we get any bonuses or anything extra.
You just pushed it into there.
Push it into there.
That's really good advice.
Yeah.
What makes the best rental property for you? Like when you're looking for a potential rental property, whether it's in town, whether it's one that you moved into and lived in and then, went and found your next property, or like your ones and your duplexes in Idaho or Utah or Illinois, even all the.
Yeah.
What makes a good rental property? What are you looking for?
Well, the best deal, obviously, if you can get a good price.
That's the first and foremost.
Yeah, if you can get a good price. For me, for homes, as opposed to commercial, I prefer commercial properties because the people running their businesses in there tend to keep better care of our property because it's their business. So from that purpose, I prefer commercial. But if we're looking at residential, small, probably the smallest one in the neighborhood. It'd be nice if it was all tiled.
Do you do any of the renovations yourself?
We used to paint. but no.
No, you're more of a turnkey kind of.
Well, no, like we just remodeled our duplex up in Provo because it's 100 years old, and it needed
I
it.
think it would need some TLC.
And so we just hired someone to do it. But we'll go in and do simple stuff like paint, clean up. But no, if we have to. Usually, though, well, the one we bought here, it was in good condition, and then after one renter left, it was a 2-bedroom with a little den thing with a half wall, and I knew we could get more money for it if it was a 3-bedroom. So we hired someone to put up the wall and make it a 3rd bedroom, and then that's when we also painted and recarpeted or whatever. So looking for small, good deals.
That's a great one that you just mentioned, that you took a 2-bedroom and you revitalized the square footage that was in that exact home.
Right, yeah.
And you changed it.
Yeah.
That's being savvy.
Yeah.
That's what could honestly get somebody into the game, because maybe they don't want to buy that 2-bedroom house. But if that home has enough square footage, or if you could even add square footage to that home and kind of force something into that home and make it.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, it's more, people are more looking for a 3-bedroom opposed to a 2-bedroom. That's more of a single family opposed to a family.
Yeah, much more marketable.
Because even a family, even if they only have one child, they're typically looking for a 3-bedroom. Right? They're not looking for a 2-bedroom. They want an office space. And especially now after post-pandemic, a lot of people now work from home. So they realistically need that 3rd bedroom for their business or whatever that may look like for them.
That building, that house in North Las Vegas, we got on the 2008 thing. They were friends of ours, and they were going to go bankrupt, and they asked us if we would buy it. It would help them out, actually, as opposed. I don't remember the whole situation. So we got this home. It was like for $60,000. That at the time before the big
boom.
Yeah, it probably would have been 140. I don't know. So that was obviously we take it because it was a good deal.
Do you know how much your portfolio is worth?
I think it should be a lot more, but it's only about $6 million. I know, but I'm married to a lawyer. I'm married to a lawyer, and we should have more.
I already love you.
If we had to cash out, yeah.
It's only $6 million, but no, that's a possibility. For anybody who's watching, for anybody that's working a W-2 job, for anybody that has a dream of wanting to be able to create that wealth for themselves, you are a true testament of that can happen.
Well, and the reason why it's not more, too, we had 7 kids, and we put each other through graduate and undergrad, and no one had parents, no money, so it's like, okay, we did it, and we did everything we wanted to do, so we had to balance. And we have to pay our church 10% out of every paycheck. So if we can do it, paying 10%, then other people who aren't paying the 10%, there's 10% more they can dump into an investment. So I think we did all right, considering.
I think you did more than all right.
It could have been more. It should have been more, but we'll blame Trevin on that. I don't know.
Which kid was he?
He was born on my birthday.
How dare he?
He was number 4.
He was number 4?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
That's insane. Honestly, you're who I want to be.
I think you probably already are.
The
fact
not yet, but that's what I want. That's how I started this journey. Was I learned when I was doing my W-2 job that I was making an income, but I wasn't happy. I didn't enjoy it. I was not nice to people to a certain point. I became that McDonald's worker, right?
Right.
I had gained a lot of weight. I every day didn't understand what was going on with me, and then I started educating myself about real estate, and I imagined that like mushroom cloud, and I was like, this is it. This is absolutely it. people like stocks. They like whatever that there is. I mean, there's crypto now and all those things. And I was looking at all the different investment strategies. And real estate was the one that just kept sticking out to me. It was like, this is you. This is exactly it. And that's my hat's off
And
to you.
the other piece of advice, my dad actually mentioned it before he died, and when he saw what we were doing, because again, they did a lot of that too, but they often sold anything they ever bought as leverage for something else, which is a good thing. I mean, it's better than just selling it and then spending it on the good life, I guess. But anyway, I wish we would have, and we didn't. I wish we would have kept every property we've ever bought. But there are points where you needed the money to move on to the next thing. Though we had bought a home here in Whitney Ranch, a rental home. A friend of ours was a real estate broker and bought it. She was a broker. Most of them, though, we have done without real estate people. I just want you to know, because it saves some money. But so we bought it from her, and we were renting it, and life's going on. And about a year later, she comes up to me. And this is when there was a big boom. I had no idea. I'm just living my life. She goes, you could sell that house and make $150,000 profit today. This was just like a year after we bought it. So stuff was going on. I don't even know. So we did. We sold that. And what did we sell something else? And put that money together to buy our first commercial property, which is much more expensive than a home. And so it gave us that ability to do that. But I kind of wish, my dad told me he wished they had not sold their properties. They would have been much better off over the years. So if you can hang on.
But I think that you did a smart choice, because it's not like you sold that property and then used those proceeds to just use it elsewhere.
Right.
You took those proceeds and then you
Continued,
put it.
right.
You kind of just traded that equity for something else,
Right.
which. I mean, I'm assuming that your commercial spaces are still doing well.
Yeah, they're doing not as well as when we first bought them because of the COVID and not as much office space. And office space typically, commercial typically lags the housing market as far as recovery. So it's not quite as recovered. I mean, they're rented, but looking back now, I wish we hadn't. Although at the time, when we first did, it made a ton of money so that we could then buy the properties in Idaho, So I guess it all works out.
It does all work out.
Yeah.
So this side of the segment, I like to feed you tacos.
All right.
And then I just like to ask you a couple silly questions of, my ChatGPT assistant kind of helped me with. Birria. These tacos are from, let me make sure I get it correct.
I can't believe I was about 62 years old when we discovered birria tacos. And I thought, how did I live this long? And not know. And then we've actually made them, and they're hard to make. They take a while.
They do take a while.
But they are so good.
One of those
Thank
is for you. And one of these is
All
for
right.
you. All right. So I want to say thank you for Polo Mobile for making this possible and getting us to us in a fast, timely manner, because I honestly just ordered this and they're already here. So that was great. One of the funny questions that I have for you is, if you could ban one home design trend forever, what would it be? What are you tired of seeing? What are you tired
Oh, I'm tired of the gray. I'm sick of the gray.
That's
In fact, when we were remodeling this duplex, I said I do not want gray. Brown at least. There was this house built going bonanza up towards the Mormon temple. Mm-hmm. This was 20 years ago or something, and it said, "Built by a woman, made for a woman." And the first thing I thought when I saw it is, well, no, it wasn't, because it's right on a major highway, and I would not have a house on a major highway. I hate the houses that when you open the front door, you look in, you can see the kitchen. Because it's so hard to keep a kitchen clean. So I don't like that design. I don't particularly. We are in one of those 3 kind of level things where you're going up and down stairs all the time. The only reason we bought it was because it was big enough for
All
7 kids. Yeah, I don't particularly like that. If me, I would just be. My favorite is a single-story ranch style.
That is probably one of the
That's
most
mine.
popular style homes. But you want to know what those ranch style
Oh,
single family
I
homes
bet.
have? The
What?
gray.
Oh no!
The gray everywhere. When I go in a lot of these homes now, that's
Yeah,
the
that's the thing.
style when they're
Yeah.
remodeling, and I'm sure that's going to
And it-
change with years to come
Right.
because there's
It-
always
it
a
always
new.
changes.
It always changes.
I grew up when there was avocado and orange. Orange shag and avocado refrigerators.
Oh, my goodness.
Man.
Would you rather negotiate with a stubborn seller or a family of raccoons squatting in the attic? Would you take the raccoons or are you going to take the stubborn sailor?
Oh.
It didn't specify how stubborn he could be either. Those
To me,
raccoons
the
might be easier.
negotiating's not really tough. You just put in an offer, they say yes or no, and they maybe make a counter, and then you make a counter, and then if you don't like it,
You
so
just
I
move
don't-
on?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're not.
yeah,
So,
so that
you've
to
never
me-
been really hung up on a deal, right? You've
Oh,
never.
no.
You don't seem like the type
No,
either.
no,
If,
yeah.
if not, there's
If it's-
another one to be
yeah,
made.
Right. So,
Have you ever offered asking price for a property, or do you always go a little bit under, a little bit over? What's your strategy when you're putting in an offer, especially since you said that you typically do it your own negotiating?
Right. Well, so like the last 2, we bought 2 condos up in Idaho recently, and it was just a builder building them, and we knew the manager of the company. She called us up, hey, you want to buy them? And so they were going for something, but if we bought more than one, they would give us this, and so we just took this. And so I'm not a big chewer downer.
Okay.
I'm really bad at that. So
So you
I
offer them what they ask.
Probably usually. But if it's too much, I wouldn't go for it. So.
No, because that's the
It's-
first and foremost important part about any deal is what you purchase it
Yeah,
for. Because
yeah.
if you purchase a property for the wrong price and you keep throwing money at it, that money's gone.
Yeah.
And that's a big misconception too. You
Yeah.
can't just keep throwing money at a deal that's gone bad and expect it to blossom into something else.
Right.
It's just a dumpster fire.
Right. Yeah.
Would you rather buy a home with no roof or one with a swamp for a backyard? Considering you could fix both of these things,
Oh.
which one would you?
Oh, well, then no roof. Yeah.
The no roof.
I'd have the roof. Can't get rid of a swamp, I don't think.
Or you use that as like a cool Airbnb and you make it Shrek's home, and I'm sure that it would be booked year round. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think me personally, I'm going with the swamp, and I'm having Shrek all day.
That's great.
My last question for you is, if you could go back and tell your younger self something, what would it be? What would your piece of advice be for younger Anne?
Marry well. I have the best husband. Yeah, he's put up with me. And go for your dreams. And just
And I think
live
you
the
did
best
that.
life. Just go for it.
Just go for it.
Yeah,
Get after it.
yeah. There's
Don't
so
be
much
scared.
to do in life. So
Are you on any social media, anything? Is there anybody that somebody can follow you on? No? You're very personal. Well, I appreciate you coming
Thank
on.
you.
I honestly think that you are a true testament to what an individual could become. And honestly, I hope that somebody listens to this podcast and that light bulb goes off in their head and they're like, I absolutely can do that.
And I'll also be looking. I know a friend who there used to be, and I don't know if there still is, like these teacher things where you could buy a home if you were a teacher and it's your first home in a less desirable area. But if
Yes.
you lived in it for a year and then kept it for whatever, 3 years, then you could sell it and do whatever you wanted. I know people who did that. A single teacher on her own did that. Didn't matter where she was living. She didn't have kids to be in the she didn't have to be in the best schools, So she lived there, and she started investing earlier than I did. And so I would suggest find ways to make it work,
And instead of not.
Right.
Instead of excuses.
And maybe work with a real estate agent because they might know some of these ways too.
Yeah, definitely. And it's the right real estate agent. It's the one that has them at best interest at heart and has the right resources to be able to help that individual, because everybody's situation is different. But I guess my advice would be, the moment that you are thinking about purchasing, talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Because it could change your life.
Right.
If not, you could be stuck in that analysis paralysis forever, and then you can be a victim of trying to time that market. And then, unfortunately, that market is here today, and it is gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for coming on, and let's talk about real estate with Alexis Mata. I had Ann with me. It was a pleasure. I hope to see you next Tuesday, and thank you, and bye for now.